This is the second part of a workshop on Omeka S, and I'm joined today by my friend and colleague C-Host, who led the first workshop on Omeka S. And in between then and now, we've been doing a bunch of stuff. We've been getting this all ready so that we can show y'all how the self-hosted instance works and what we'll be doing with ZKAV Club using Omeka S. So C-Host, thanks again for joining us and for facilitating this workshop. I'm really excited about that.
Thank you, Ryan. Very happy to be here. This time with a better internet connection, Ethernet cable locked in, helicopter going above in the sky. So today we're going to talk a little bit about taking the local development, local deployment Docker version of Omeka S and putting it on a server, and talking a little bit about what that process is like, and then talking a little bit about what this instance of Omeka S can do. We'll also have some demonstrations and some hands-on activities where people can attempt to log into the system and actually get a kind of hands-on experience of what it's like to work with Omeka S as a contributor. But maybe just as some quick background for those that weren't present for the first workshop, what is Omeka S? Omeka S is an archive display management software. It's a content management system. It's a little similar to WordPress, but it's designed more around metadata structures. So it's very easy to edit metadata, change how metadata is displayed, and also manage your metadata. It also has a very robust and extensive user-contributed module ecosystem. Modules are pieces of software that you can plug into Omeka S and extend the capabilities of it. Omeka S has a hosted version that they offer themselves. So if you go here, you can see the .org version, which is actually not exactly where you want to go. If you want to try, this is for self-hosting, Omeka S hosted. There's also omeka.net, which offers hosting. So you can go and look at the plans. It starts from free all the way up to 35, 75, 350, and 1,000. And basically what changes here is the amount of storage, the number of sites that you can manage through Omeka S. Omeka S is unique because you can have multiple websites that can pull from a larger repository of archival materials, and also the number of plugins and themes that you can use. What's noteworthy about the setup that we're using for this instance of Omeka S is that we've made a couple of custom modules that allow us to interface with the Internet Archive by pulling items from the Internet Archive and uploading them to Omeka S, pulling their metadata, a thumbnail, images, Internet Archive embeds, and also allowing us to push items from Omeka S to the Internet Archive. So that includes updating metadata, and that also includes uploading metadata along with files. So videos, PDFs, videos, images, audio. I said videos twice because one of the core focuses of ZK Audiovisual Club is video, and in particular this conversation series that the ZK AV Club has been doing at various events around the world. And so the idea here is that all of those items can get uploaded to the Internet Archive, and they get stored there. They're also relatively durable since they're on the Internet Archive, publicly accessible, open source. And then Omeka S is a way for creating a kind of nice front end for viewing items on the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is lovely and an amazing resource, but the page load times are quite long. Discoverability is a little difficult, and it doesn't offer this kind of collaborative, community managed interface to items or collections on the Internet Archive. So that's what Omeka S in this context is trying to provide. So with that background, we'll talk very briefly about what the process was like going from local development to production on a server. So for most people who are watching this, they very likely won't have to actually deal with going from a local development to a server. They can probably just set it up on the server and work from it there. But if you do that, and all the information for working locally is in a tutorial that was prepared and shared in the last workshop. And at some point when Ryan is speaking, I can get the link and share that so that others can take a look at that, or perhaps Ryan can find it. So all of that, basically what you can do is you can just spin up a server and then you can follow that tutorial. And then you can have something that's very similar to what we have here. But in our case, we had to basically prepare some backups of the data that was on Omeka S in the Docker instance, and then spin up a new server, set up Omeka S in the Docker container, and then ensure that that backup data was properly stored in the new instance of Omeka S that was spun up on the server. Alongside that, there are some additional considerations like SSHing into the server, managing public and private keys, setting up a reverse proxy. I believe we used PuTTY for this, and setting up an email server and an SMTP server so that emails will work in Omeka S. In the local development, there's something called Mailgun, or sorry, MailPit, which lets you have a local email provider that you can work with. But for a production server, you need a different kind of SMTP server. So with that, maybe I can turn it over to Ryan very briefly, and he can talk a little bit about how we picked a server and how setting up the SMTP side of things was.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that overview of what we covered in the last session. I posted a link in the chat on YouTube, so you can check out the previous version of this workshop, or the previous part where we talked about all of this local deployment stuff and kind of the overview. But when it came to setting up the server, yeah, the docs for what was required for a server for Omeka S was a little bit vague in some areas, specifically in the version of Linux or the distro that you needed. I think it just says Linux. It doesn't even say like Ubuntu or anything. But that aside, we went with just the cheapest server that Hetzner had, which was, we have other servers on Hetzner that we're using to set up like CryptPad and C-File and different instances like this. So went ahead with that and just picked out the cheapest one because they have pretty limited options right now. So if you're looking for a server for your Omeka S instance for your community, then something along the lines of like very basic shared VPS. We have 2 GB of RAM on this system. There's one CPU. We've got 40 GB storage, which is pretty small, but we will talk about storage later and how it's used before the offloading to Internet Archive for the long-term storage. And then we went with just the latest version of Ubuntu. So it was pretty easy and straightforward as far as choosing the server and deploying the server. Well, deploying the server was a little more complex because we had this migration process from going from local to the self-hosted version, to the instance. This isn't what everyone has to do. Like, it'd be much better if you're going to set up a community instance for Omeka S, then like it would be much better to just do straightforward and do all of the configuration for your installation of the instance. However, if you followed through the first part of the workshop and you followed the tutorial that C-Host provided, then you end up with this local version of Omeka S running, and then you might want to do this this migration process, going from the local environment to the cloud environment. However, if you did the first part of the workshop and you did a little bit of the configuration and setup, now you're used to what is required to do the installation. So I would recommend just going back, and unless you've like filled your local instance with a bunch of stuff, like it'd probably be best to just start fresh and then go through this process that we're going to go through with you today of how to add content and how to change metadata and things like this. So yeah, that was a basic server setup. And then there was other things like firewalls, which of course you want to make sure you have. SSL, you definitely want to make sure you have. People are going to be logging in here. They're going to be sending their passwords through the web, and you want to make sure that these are encrypted channels that they're using. So HTTPS all the way, like don't mess around with anything that's not. So that's important to get that set up right away. And other things, there's some basic security backend stuff, and then SMTP is necessity for any of these self-hosted web platforms, these apps that we're talking about. They do need to communicate with the users. This is the case with Omeka S. This is the case with CryptPad. It's the case with PeerTube. It's like when you sign up for YouTube, you have to verify your email address, and the system sends an email to each user with a little confirm link. So the server actually needs to have a mail server or some way to send emails out. And this is where the SMTP comes in for mail routing. We went with Postmark for this. It's a lightweight, cheap option to get this email system working on the back end. So now we have this Omeka S system server set up. We went through the process, sent a C-host and a friend of ours who will be joining us for future workshops, hopefully, helped us out with getting the whole server set up and everything. So we got it set up and we finished it up today. And today we have something to show as far as how it all works. I don't think of anything else. It was pretty straightforward, with the exception of this complication of moving from local to migration, or migrating the local to the cloud-based. Is there anything else that people should
maybe
watch
the
for?
only other thing is, so because this project is going to be using a lot of video uploads, which we still have to work out how to actually upload large videos, just to be upfront about that. The one consideration is whether or not you're going to interface with an S3 bucket, because there are cases where you might have a lot of material that gets uploaded directly to Omeka S and lives in your database in Omeka S on the server. And you need a protocol for transferring and dealing with very large files like video files, particularly archive quality video files. And even though the end state is that all of the items that are uploaded to Omeka S, if you're using the Internet Archive module, will eventually go onto the Internet Archive and leave Omeka S, there are still potential cases where you might have some period of time where there are a large number of video files on your server. So you might need to think about storage in that case. And if you're file transferring large files, you might need to think about something like an S3 bucket.
Yeah, this is a really good point, and it's especially important for ZKAV Club, but also it's really important for any community that wants to create an archive of video content. It's pretty typical for a web server to come with limitations, whether those limitations are through Apache or through the reverse proxy or through the actual application. WordPress, if you're familiar with WordPress, it also has file upload limitations that you can change on the server. So right now we're faced with this limitation problem on the server of how big of a file we can upload. We need to probably add something like S3 for storage for these files, and it's just temporary before it gets accepted and sent to Internet Archive. But the 40 gigabytes that we have right now on this server, I'm looking at some of these videos that we're talking about archiving. I can look at something from, let's see, Berlin Blockchain Week. This is what we just did last month. I can go into one of these recordings. This is just from one camera. So what we're actually doing here with this archive is uploading the raw source material from each of the cameras that we're using in a recording station. Each file for each camera, let's see, it comes out to a list. I have a 132 megabyte file here. That's tiny. There's 6.29 gigabytes, 24.52 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes, 10 to 20 gigabytes is kind of the norm for the files we'll be dealing with. So really, we'll be able to upload 2 camera angles for one of our recordings, and then it would have to be accepted and put on Internet Archive, and then we would have to add the other files after that. So this isn't even functional at this point for what we need it for. But we know how to accommodate for that. Like this is where the S3 buckets would come into play. And yeah, we haven't gotten to that point yet. So it's really important to note, though.
Yeah. I think that's everything from the server slash technical side. I think the next thing that we're going to do is maybe I should just briefly show you around the website, and then we're going to do like some hands-on activity. So this is the front end. This is the website. It has some information about the club. You can browse the items that have been uploaded to Omeka S, technically uploaded to the Internet Archive, and then the metadata is here on Omeka S. If we click on one of these, you can see all of the metadata for that item. You can also see the Internet Archive embed viewer. Because it's the Internet Archive, it will take a little bit of time to load, but it will load and it will play. So, yeah, all of this is living on the Internet Archive. There's also the ability to browse the collection on a map. So none of these items have been geolocated yet. But for example, we could do that. So if we go to an item, and let's take this item that we were just looking at.
It seems like you froze. Oh.
And if the metadata here, and you can edit it here, and then all these changes get reflected. Yeah. And just get reflected in the front end. But there's this mapping tab, and we can find, I don't know, maybe, yes, we can find CBase, which is where that video is located. We can save that mapping data, that point. We'll see that there's a type error, and that the argument must be a type of array. I don't know why that's the case.
Hmm.
Let me see. Let me try one more time. Let me try adding this point here, and let me delete this. Let me try saving again. I'll probably get the same error. Okay, so there's some type of error in the mapping module, which I would need to debug. But once that item is mapped, if we go to this page, you will see it right here in the location. So this is quite handy because as the ZKAV Club is doing recordings around the world, you can come to this map and kind of get a snapshot and see where different items are. And then once you click on that location, you'll be able to actually just go directly to the item in the archive. There's also the ability to contribute a new item for people who are logged in as a guest. Right now, the collection form just includes a title and the ability to upload a file, and you can also choose whether or not you want to submit it anonymously or not. And you also have a dashboard. And then the other thing is maybe I want to show you a little bit of the back end. But Ryan, I needed to get a battery charger. Can you maybe talk about some of the locations where you've been recording and how, yeah, just talk a little bit about some of the locations you've been recording while I get my charger.
Totally. Yeah. So the module that we're using here, first of all, this Internet Archive module, to push stuff to Internet Archive to edit this material. Picking up an echo from your mic. I guess it's coming from your headphones though.
Yeah.
Live production, folks. We're doing it live. So this module that we're using. Hold on. You in there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're good. Yeah. So the module that we're using for this Internet Archive part of Omeka S was created by Chost, and it's not in the stores, I believe, yet, but it is super cool for exactly what we need. Sorry about that echo earlier. That was because Chost was passing through the room I was in with the microphone on. So yeah, the map part of this that can geolocate where these different events are happening is really important to ZKAV Club because with this archive specifically, because we're building an archive of source material of conversations and like performances and workshops and things that are being recorded at these different events that we're traveling to. And it all sort of started at Berlin Blockchain Week last year, and then we went down to Prague for Dark Prague, and then we went over to Buenos Aires for Sub-Zero and DevConnect, and then we were just back at Berlin Blockchain Week again this month, which happened in Brandenburg in Germany also. So as we continue this map, as we continue this road with ZKAV Club and with the recording station, we're going to be filling this map with all of these different points. And if people want to find recordings from a specific event, they can look at this map and see all these different dots and think like, oh, I want to see what did they record when they were down in Buenos Aires? What if they recorded in Berlin, or wherever the case may be? And we're going to keep doing this for years, I hope, and so we'll end up with dots all over this map, and we'll end up with hundreds of recordings. So far, for the archive specifically, I think we have about 80 recordings, something like that. So it's going to be a pretty big archive just at the launch point. And our next event that we're doing is ZCon 7, which is in Cancun at the end of October. So we'll have a big head start on this archive using Omeka S and Internet Archive, and then we'll be adding more contents with them. And we'll put a little dot on the Cancun map. What are you looking at on the map right now?
Yes. Okay. That was, I believe, Anaklia in Georgia.
Okay.
So, okay. I think maybe another thing that I can show you is in the back end. So there's all of these modules, just to give you a sense of the and you showed earlier your items. You can arrange them into item sets. You can also define custom resource templates. So you might have some set of videos that all use the same metadata structure, and you can specify that here. So this is really where Omeka S shines in terms of kind of being a resource first, metadata first content management system.
We were going to talk about the Omeka S workflows with teams, right? Like what was this thing about?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that would actually be maybe, let's talk about why a group of people might use this and how they might use it. So let's imagine that you have a team of, let's say, 5 people, and they are all at one of these recording stations, and afterwards you want to distribute tasks, and you want to use Omeka S as an interface that they can use for collectively working with the archive. You might give one person responsibility for the videos from day 1. You might give someone the responsibilities for the videos from day 2. You might give someone a archive review role, so that they other two Internet Archive Omeka S synchronization role, so that they work on loaded and push it from Omeka S to the Internet Archive, and they might also be responsible for making sure that the metadata is in sync between the two. And then you might have just a general systems administrator who's making sure that the site is working workflow that kind of demonstrates how you can have a distributed team, a team that comes together or also works separately, and is all able to collectively work with different functions or roles within the group around the archive, in a way that wouldn't necessarily be possible if you were just working with the Internet Archive. Because if you're working with the Internet Archive, everyone would have to upload to the Internet Archive. They would all have to understand how to do that. They would all, then there wouldn't be any kind of review process. There wouldn't be any kind of metadata sync between the display site and the Internet Archive. And there wouldn't be any kind of audit trail of the changes that were made to the metadata as well. I don't know, Ryan, do you have any other ideas for how your group might benefit from this more kind of collective approach to working with community archives? And if not, we can move on to the kind of hands-on section.
I totally do. I think that like the hands-on section will make a bit more sense if, like you were talking about, take this sort of case study of recording station activation, which I realize most people don't have experience with, but I can explain it real briefly. Like there are, let's say, 5 people. People just volunteer to help us out with the recording station. Some are a part of other AV Club projects, like the workshops coordinators, for example, or Robmar, who does our post-production coordination. But anyway, we have, like, let's say 5 people there, and each can have a different role in handling the content after we do the recordings. So the way it works right now, we go to like DWeb Camp, let's say, for example. We were just there. It's a 5-day event. At the end of the event, we have a whole bunch of different recordings on a bunch of different SD cards, and it all needs to be backed up. And then it needs to be sorted, and then it can be added to the archive, because like we have like 3 or 4 different camera angles and all these different microphone sources. So giving one person responsibility for uploading all of it, that's like a long and slow process. Especially with the Internet Archive. At least it used to be really slow with uploading. I believe that they fixed it now. But it makes sense to break that workload up, because people's bandwidth and their computer being used, being occupied is a big problem. So we can split it up, and like you're saying, like we can have people for each day. We'll still need to sort all of the different recordings individually. So we have each recording has each camera angle for just that recording. It'll be like in a folder, and this is the item that we're publishing. So we can have people upload for a certain day the different recordings, and then that person doesn't need to be responsible for the metadata, because once it's uploaded, someone else can go in and edit the metadata. And then it would make sense to have someone else be responsible for reviewing and accepting it. And I don't know if that person would be responsible for uploading to Internet Archive, but it could be someone else then to do that final process. And this kind of delegation, this decentralization of the workload, will make everyone's lives easier. And that's just for recording station activation. Right now, we have, like I was saying, 50 to 80 different recordings that we'll be putting on Internet Archive into this collection. When we get there, this demo is not actually that collection, but it will serve the purpose of us showing you how it'll work. So in the meantime, we have an archivist that we just brought on, Irena, who's helping us to organize the metadata and the schema and how we're going to do all of this content, how we're going to get it into this archive. And it's going to be a lot for Irena to do. So splitting up the upload workload after it's all sorted makes a lot of sense to me. And I could see this being like an auxiliary job, because it wouldn't be just one person. It's big files. Like I was saying, one recording could be easily over 100 gigabytes with each of the camera angles and things. So just having the opportunity to have people have one place to go where they can upload the things, they can add it, they can change the metadata. Like you're saying, C-host, like you're saying, the Internet Archive doesn't give you this option. I've been trying to figure this out for the last year on how we can work as a community to build this archive, instead of someone uploading all of the video files and being responsible for that on their page, and not really having a way to do it as a collective. It was really breaking the mentality or the idea of this being a club, if it was these isolated silos. So this really helps with that, for sure, and the delegating of the work. I could see it totally working for our team and our project. I'm thinking about other communities. They might have something that they might not be building an open source media collection. They might just have a series of videos that they make on their phone where they're interviewing people on the street about something that's important to them or to their community. You could think of anything. I mean, mapping is the first thing to come to my mind, because community mapping is a big project that DWeb community works on. But you could imagine a community wanting to create an archive of their community members just talking about their environment around them, and the way that the rivers, the landscape, the mountains and whatnot, and the wildlife. It'd be pretty interesting to build a collection of just these little interviews of locals talking about what's going on for them. And they could build this and use Omeka S so that they could all share the videos and they'd all be in one spot. You can upload to one spot, you can access it all in one spot, browse it, search it, the playback and everything. And the storage is arbitrary, like it doesn't matter. We're using Internet Archive. It could be using S3, we could be using virtually anything. Like I would imagine that you can even make this work with IPFS or Swarm as the data store. But we won't be going into that. It's just kind of where my fantasy world goes. But as far as enabling teams to create an archive together, to collectively create a collection of content that's important to them, it could be, you could have a poetry club and you want a place to publish all of your poetry and use Internet Archive as the backend for that. So that would actually work really well because then you wouldn't have these space sort of limitations. And that would be a really good opportunity for multiple people to have something to share, to contribute, and to even go in and you could change the metadata. Like if one person in your poetry club gets a reference or an inspiration that the other one doesn't know, then you can add like inspirations for the poetry for a piece. So I see like really huge power and possibilities in having a community be able to contribute to the archive in this way, which is a feature that Internet Archive doesn't exactly provide.
Yes. Okay, great. So why don't we send people the live website and send them the login page? And if people want, they can try to log in. You on the page. Okay, this is going to be a little tricky because I would need to log in and out with a password that I'm not familiar with.
I can share my screen and show how the
that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, so first I'm checking real quick because we had a little bit of a mix-up with the live stream link at the beginning of this. And so we're streaming to a different video YouTube link than what we had originally advertised. So I'm just double checking to see if anyone is joined here. And I did share the chat link in the chat on YouTube. I shared the link to our instance of Omeka S. This link is archive.zkav.club. And if you go there, you will see a login screen. So let me share my screen. Where'd we go here? Share. Yeah. I'll share this one. So on the left, I'm logged in as an admin. On the right, I am not logged in at all. And now here you can see what this looks like. If you go to archive.zkav.club, you're going to see this. This is our demo archive. Some demo stuff. So login screen, you can log in or you can create a new account. That's what the second form is, the registration form. So if you are watching this and you want to go create an account, yeah, go ahead. We can delete you later if we think you're annoying or we just don't. If we don't think it's helpful. But for now, into this account, so you're familiar with the password. We just created these accounts today.
So the way the registration works is you just put in your email, a username, a password, and then you'll get a confirmation email. And once you click the confirmation link, then you'll become a guest. And when you become a guest, the navigation bar changes for you. So you get a contribute page and a My Dashboard page, which opens up additional capabilities for you to contribute rather than just browsing the website. So if Ryan does log in, um, or I can go back to
There.
sharing my screen.
Just give 1 second. I've just got to log into a different thing here, and then here we go. Here we go. Omeka S will. There we go. Log in.
All right, so here you
So now
can
I'm logged
see
in
that there's
as a
now this
guest, not an admin.
contribute and my dashboard. So the My Dashboard, we can look at it briefly. It just lets you update your account information and log out. It also lets you see contributions, but this page doesn't work right now, unfortunately. Um, but basically, if you make a contribution or if you edit metadata, then you can see a record of all of the contributions that you've made and also the status of those items, whether or not they've been accepted or not. It's a cool feature, but there's, like with software and demos, there's always something that doesn't work. Um, and then if you go to the contribute page,
I just noticed that the URLs on here are pointing to like taking these link URLs incorrect.
yeah,
Which is
this is
probably
a
just because it's not working
custom.
right now for us.
Yeah, this is a custom page, because the default contribute page doesn't really work either. And this was something that was set up. The links were set up in the local
Okay.
development. So,
Well, it's not a
yeah,
problem,
this page
but this is
needs to
just
be
why this was
updated.
not working.
Yeah.
This issue. Contribute button is, and this is how you will actually contribute something to the archive as a new thing. So, should we try it?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay, cool. So if you're watching this, go to archive.zkv.club and go ahead and try to create an account and let us know how it goes. I'll probably get email notifications or something. You'll need to verify your email address, and then you can go in and you can do this contribute thing as well. So I'm just going to go through it with an image that I have. We can't do large image, or we can't refer things that we haven't accounted for yet, but we will. So let me get to image file. We'll just call this, I did an image test earlier, so I'm just going to do this. And then we have an image. This is a nice picture. That's a nice one. Okay, so then there's this option to submit anonymously. What does this do, Seahorse?
So if you submit anonymously, it doesn't share the email with the people who are looking at this item. So it allows you to, yeah, submit anonymously. It does mean that if someone wants to be in contact with you about your contribution, that there's no way to get in touch with you. But it does allow you to submit items, and if the reviewer is okay with it, then they can use it. And if they need to contact you, then well, they just won't use it.
Yeah, but that for this Omeka account is shown attached to everything that you upload, right? Or is it the email address of the API key holder?
No. I mean, so like right now you're logged in, you just logged in using that email. I believe that if you click, I want to submit anonymously, that email, it'll just show that it came from a random guest. It won't show that it came
Okay.
from you specifically.
But if I don't check it, then it will show the email address that I logged into
Yes,
Omeka S with. Okay, cool. That's fine with me. I'm gonna say submit, and it was uploaded the image from my computer to our Omeka S instance, and it's now sitting there waiting for something to happen.
correct. Um,
Cool.
yeah. Do you want to switch back over
Should
to
we show
me?
what that something is? Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Great. So, sorry for the, there we go. Okay. So, we now have the item that uh, Ryan submitted as part of our items. Oh, we also have a risotto item from Jack. Hi, Jack. Welcome to Omeka S. Welcome to the crew. So we've got risotto and we've got image test Omeka S1. Uh, Look at that. Isn't it a beauty? Let's also check out this risotto. Uh, uh, oh, I mean, look at that. Doesn't everyone want that in their community archive?
Nom nom nom.
Um, yes. So now what we can do is we can use this Internet Archive outbound module. And if we go to the publish user submitted sub item, uh, then what we'll see, fingers crossed, is all of the items that have been submitted by users. So that should include the risotto and the image tests that were just submitted. It also includes a couple of other previous user submitted items. So let's go ahead and try uploading both of these. Right now, so the way this works is um, in your .in file, you specify your Internet Archive S3 API keys um, so that um, the that key holder is able to publish items to the Internet Archive. Um, there are a couple of interesting affordances here. One is that if you have a community-owned collection on the Internet Archive, when you publish something to the Internet Archive, it will show the email and the metadata of the person who uploaded it. So if you want to allow people to upload to your collection on the Internet Archive, but without them having to expose their email to the Internet Archive, by going through your API key here in Omeka S, then their email basically never has to get exposed to the Internet Archive, to the publicly available metadata. So that's also like a kind of privacy hack in some way. Um, Another thing to consider here is that um, the API key has certain collections that it's able to publish to. And this module is designed to work with an Internet Archive collection. It assumes that you have an Internet Archive collection. You can also set it up so that it publishes to a quote unquote test collection, which is how it's working right now. Um, which just means that so we're using Ryan's API keys, which means that these items will be uploaded by Ryan to Ryan's account to a community test collection. And because they're in Ryan's account, that means that Ryan can go into his account and delete them if he wants to. But it also means that he can directly upload them to the collection that he has the responsibility or the privilege to upload to. So we select the two items that we want to upload. We preview the uploads, and what we will see is a kind of preview of what will or should go to the Internet Archive. Um, so we have this item here, number 34, the image test. We can see the title, the Internet Archive identifier that is derived from the title. So what it does is it appends ZKAV. You can also change the text that's appended so that it fits your collection. It should go into the test collection. Um, and you'll see that before there's nothing on the Internet Archive because it's a new item, and after it's going to be image test for Omeka S1, and same for risotto. You click this little tick box to just confirm that you understand that you're publishing to the Internet Archive, and then you publish. And again, fingers crossed that it works. After the page reloads, you will see some information up here telling you where you can track the progress. So you can see that the publish was queued as job 47 for 2 items, and you can track the progress in the history section of this module. So we go down here, Internet Archive outbound, go to history, and then we can see that this is the most recent job here. We can look at the details, and currently we see that there is nothing yet. Let's refresh it. The upload does take a little more time to give you a status because it's going through the actual upload process. Um, so let's just refresh this a little bit. Let's also check the logs. So now you can see that um, the first one failed. Upload verification failed, missing on Internet Archive. If the item already appears on Internet Archive, publish it again to finish metadata and staging cleanup. We can check to see if this is already on the Internet Archive. Um, another thing to consider here is that these are kind of new custom modules, and that there's to work through. So you can see that it is in fact on the Internet Archive. So it's possible that there's just some messaging issues that need to be accounted for, but it has the title that we defined in Omeka S. It has the identifier that we can also see if the risotto is on the Internet Archive. It doesn't appear. Yes, here we go. Let's also
I'm
check
actually not
this
seeing
one.
the risotto on the ZKAV Club archive on archive.zkav.club. And I went to browse and I see that both image tests, but I don't see the risotto one.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, the difference there is that
I mean, the
it's active
risotto
with the risotto.
is now. Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, neither of them should be here because the way that this module is supposed to work is that once it successfully uploads to the Internet Archive, the upload to Omeka S is deleted. So both of them are on the Internet Archive. currently.
Mhm.
And they couldn't have gotten there unless someone had put it on Omeka S. So that part is
Mhm.
working. The
So
risotto is here.
I'm looking at the
And I
same
don't know
screen
why
you're
you don't
looking
see
at,
it.
the items. Now I'm looking at the admin backend, and I see the same thing
Hmm.
you do, but I noticed these little eyes are crossed out, the little eyeball icons are crossed out, and when you click on any of those three, it
Yeah,
says that they're set to visibility private.
that's right. So if you go visit the homepage without being logged in, you won't see these items
Mm.
um, intentionally, because the idea is that what is on the on Omeka S should really, in this particular case, only be things that have been brought in from the Internet Archive. So the idea is that these are set to private, and that once the item has been uploaded to the Internet Archive, it gets deleted from Omeka S.
Hmm.
And the other thing to consider is that imagine that you have a guest who logs in and submits risotto like Jack did, and it has nothing to do with the community archive. You
Mhm.
don't want that to necessarily be public by default, because that means that anyone who visits the website will then see that without it having been approved. So this is sort of a way of making sure that your front end doesn't show things until the person who's responsible for like approving items approves it.
This totally makes sense. I like this separation of spaces where you have like the logged in user space where people can contribute. These are active participants in the club who can contribute and edit stuff and make changes. They can see what others have uploaded before it's actually been like published. And then there's the front end that anyone who wants to browse the archive can access that, and they can see the stuff that's actually been like approved, published, and included as part of the collection. So this makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the model. Now, like I said, these should, by the module, have been deleted once they were successfully uploaded to the Internet Archive, but there's something going on with the module. So instead, I'm just going to manually delete them, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show how we can bring those items that were just uploaded to the Internet Archive into Omeka
Oh,
S. And
yeah.
what I mean by that is right now these images are just stored on the Omeka S instance on the server, but we want them to be stored on the Internet Archive, and that and then Omeka S is the display software for the Internet Archive. So if we take these two links and then we go back to the dashboard, if we go to the Internet Archive inbound module, um, we will see, we will select single language archive import. We will add um, whoops, um, these two links. Uh, will They're already set to the correct resource, they're already set to the correct item set. We will run import. And then if we go to items, after the import process is complete, if we refresh this a couple of times, okay, now we have risotto incoming, and the owner of that is now Ryan, because yeah, that is interesting. I haven't quite tested how to keep user attribution. I mean, none of that information is displayed on the front end, uh, but it could be useful. So that's an open question. And we have the Omeka test. Now, if we go to the front end, and you'll see that these are public now. So if we go to the front end and we check out this risotto, we'll see that it has all the metadata from the Internet Archive. It links to the Internet Archive source, and you can also view the Internet Archive embed. Voila.
Food is another really good option for a community archive. Like there might be a community that has that like really values food. There's foodie communities, right? There's communities like local communities who want to create an archive of like their favorite recipes or traditional recipes of their region or whatever. So creating an archive like this where you share your recipes with your community and others, I think that could also work. So thanks for the inspiration, Jack. Risotto for the
Yeah.
win.
He also apparently he wrote me and told me that he did his test with an anonymous submission. So I also need to look into
Oh.
see why his name showed up.
Well, sorry we
As you
just
can
doxed
see,
you over and
there
over
are
again.
as you can see, there are many moving parts to Omeka S. So there is a little bit of there is a little bit of uh, I mean, ideally, you have a systems administrator who sets it up so that the people who are doing this kind of stuff don't have to think about it. But there are some finicky elements to it.
Yeah, you
But
definitely need a system administrator if you're going to be doing this kind of thing. Like if you're going to be setting up your own server to run any kind of internet infrastructure, whether it's Omeka S or CryptPad or MiroTalk, all the different stuff we're going to be going through, your community would really benefit if you find someone to join you that has like system administration skills or is willing to stumble through it. We can help with the stumbling part, but I think every community should have someone who's capable and brave enough to do this sort of thing. At least one person, especially for these
yeah,
intermediate level workshops that we're doing. They require some skills, but not extreme, not like extreme skills. This is basic web developer stuff, I think.
yeah. I mean, this is also a very kind of idiosyncratic usage of Omeka S. I mean, the Internet Archive was not meant to be interfaced with like this. So it is really trying to do something with the Internet Archive that like it wasn't designed for. So that's also why there's all these weird edge cases that we're bumping into.
Yeah, neither of the systems that we're using that we're putting together here were really designed to interact with each other. But if you ask me, Internet Archive is really missing this. Like, if Internet Archive is L1, then for this like storage layer and an archive storage layer, and they do offer this amazing public good of storage space. Like, this is one of the coolest things on the internet. But it doesn't work for communities who want to create these collections in this way and to create like browsable subsets of what's on the Internet Archive. Like you upload something on Internet Archive, and a lot of times it's just totally lost, even if you get all of your metadata right, and that's a lot of work. What Omeka S allows you to do, and if you set it up in this way, even though neither of these things were meant to be used in this way, I think it really solves a problem for Internet Archive. And then as far as Omeka S goes, like you can make modules to make it work with whatever storage backend you want to use it for, theoretically. So the fact that we're making it work with Internet Archive, like it's perfectly in line with the goals and the values of AV Club, and I think with a lot of communities, especially the ones who don't have resources to pay for massive storage on servers and things.
Yeah. Okay. One other thing that I think is interesting to show is that as someone who's logged in as a guest, for any record where the administrator has made it permissible to edit, you can go in and edit the metadata. So if you go to a page and go to the bottom and under contribute, click edit this record, you can edit it. So um, risotto. We can change the title. We can add a creator. We're not going to do that because, we don't want to dox. We can add a date. Let's say it's 2026, 07, 27. We can add a description. Um, Risotto from Wikipedia. Um, we can add a language. We can add subjects, so like tags. Food, uh, community archive, um, dinner. And then we can submit that. And what that does is it logs as a contribution. So in this users section under contributions, we can go here and we'll see reviewing metadata edits. So let's say in our previous team example, everyone's like uploaded a bunch of files. They've just done the title and the content, and then someone goes in and they edit the metadata. I mean, you could just do it directly in Omeka S in the items, but you need to be an administrator and it would have access to the backend to do that. But a guest, someone who's in the community, but doesn't maybe have the permission to be dealing with the back end of Omeka S, or just doesn't want to, or if you're just browsing and you're like, oh, I see that actually there's a typo here or this needs some correction, you can just make this submission on the front end, and then in the back end, someone can go in and they can review it. So you click here, see what the changes are. So you'll see here's the old version and here's the new version. Um, we're gonna accept this revision. We're also going to accept this description. We're going to accept all of the subjects. Maybe we actually reject the community archive because, it's just food. Uh, and dinner. You can also go back and review your revision, and either you can approve something that you had previously rejected or reject something that you had previously approved. And then when you're finished reviewing, you mark it as validated or rejected. And then that's fine. Continue. Then what you can do is you can send an email to the person who submitted this. I think it'll go to Ryan because that's the user that it's accepted, that's it's marked with now. Um, but ideally, it would go to whoever made that um, metadata edit, actually. So you can send a little information telling them that the content has been reviewed and accepted. They can view the updated item on the archive, and then you can send that message. Um, you close out of this, and now, I mean, if you go to the metadata, you'll see that uh, that some of the data, yeah, so the date created was added, the title was added. It looks like maybe the subjects didn't make it through. Um, I don't know exactly. Yeah. Um, Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm looking on the front end. I'm logged in as a guest, and I can see this now with your new title. I don't know what happened to these other fields, but I like that it's risotto risotto because now it's a poetry food club. we were combining the things. Edit this record. I can go in and edit, and yeah, there's still no subjects. I'm not seeing any subjects in here. So I'm not sure what happened with that. There was that warning about not having language tags. I don't know if that was related to that field, but
Yeah.
it is a demo, so like there are these little things that we need to work out. We just finished the setup today. We spent what, like 3.5 hours yesterday, but most of that time, a lot of it was on the local to cloud migration. So if you're going to be setting up your own Omeka S instance, then I would say you could get through it in a couple of hours if you know how to use Docker, and Git and install things that way. 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours if you're learning how to do it, like ask around, ask your friends if anyone knows how to use Docker and do this sort of thing, and have them there to help you troubleshoot in case you run into any problems. But you should account for like 3 to 4 hours to get your own Omeka S instance set up, and then you can have it to the point where we're at. Like we just did most of the setup yesterday, and then finished the things like SSH and SMTP and these other alphabet soup protocols. Um,
Yeah.
we finished that stuff today, so you can see that within a couple of days you can get your own Omeka S instance set up, and you don't have to use the Internet Archive part of it. The Internet Archive is it's been this module has been developed by chost, but there are other storage solutions that you can use that they have modules for in Omeka S. I think if you're looking for something cost efficient for your community, then I would definitely encourage you to go with Internet Archive. Of course, all of that stuff is going to be public then, so maybe you have a community collection that you want to keep locked down to just your community. Then you would want to use more secure private storage, so that right now people can go on Internet Archive, like chost was showing. People can go on Internet Archive and see all of these posts. They can find them by searching for them. And this is a benefit to ZKAV Club and the recording station archive that we're building, but it might not be a benefit to your community. So maybe you want to have that storage not be accessible to the public in a way like Internet Archive makes it. You can still use Omeka S. You can still use a bunch of like the default highly supported storage platforms that they have, including like Amazon S3. And
Yeah.
then that way it wouldn't be publicly accessible except through the platform that you control, your own Omeka S platform.
Yeah. One last thing I want to show is that those metadata, I need to revalidate it. So after this is validated, after this is validated, um, then what that means is that it will appear here in the published metadata revision section. And we can preview the changes that were approved. Do not expect. Oh, yeah. Okay, we can't. There's a collection issue. But generally speaking, you can also uh, approve those metadata edits and then push those to the Internet Archive. I mean, we can probably do it from here. So if we select this and then preview changes, do not include expected collection. Yeah, so little something there that needs to be looked at. But we did test it with Ryan earlier, and basically, if you make changes to Omeka S metadata, you can push those to the Internet Archive, and then your Internet Archive is up to date with your Omeka S. So still a couple of rough edges, and yes, as Ryan said, there are many other storage solutions that you can use other than the Internet Archive that will all probably work much more robustly than these custom modules. And the Internet Archive, even though it's great and powerful, it is a very old piece of the internet. So there are some. It's not like using like a modern, storage solution.
Mm.
So, okay, that's the hands-on and the demo side of things. Thanks to those who participated. We don't really have very much time left, but I guess, one thing I'm curious is just like if anyone who's on this call um, and who's viewing just has any ideas or questions or ways that they can imagine using this for their community. We're very open to receiving those and can answer them with the time that's left.
So there is a question that popped up in the chat like a while ago, but the question is, are there any minimum system requirements for the computer running Omeka S? So there's this is like two parts to this question, because if you have it set up like the way that we set it up in the first part of this workshop some weeks ago, then you have it set up running locally on your own computer. And this has different system requirements than the server hosted instance that we've set up. So minimum system requirements for Omeka S is a very good question. And I did not write them down when we were doing this setup. So we'll just do a quick search, right? And what else? We were talking about Internet Archive, and something else came to my mind. Oh, with being able to edit the metadata. So the fact that guests can go into the ZKAV Club archive, you create an account, you can go in and you can propose changes to any of the metadata in the videos that are there and any of the artifacts that are there. This is really cool because like we won't always have all of the information, especially like stuff that might happen in the future. Someone might want to log in and make changes, additions, just like with Wikipedia, like stuff changes and more information is often helpful if you're trying to develop some kind of context around these stories. So the ability for anyone to be able to do that, and then we can approve it or not. I think this is a really powerful thing in getting community involvement and community ownership of this archive. That much like Wikipedia, people can go in and they can propose changes and things. We can also track the changes to this. So what changes were made or proposed, which ones were committed, how did this artifact metadata change over time? This is not something that Internet Archive provides you, to my knowledge. This is something that Omeka S is giving us, which adds a whole new layer of information to your community archive. How has it evolved over time is a whole different metric that Omeka S provides, and I think it's really cool. Omeka S requirement is a LAMP stack. If you're not familiar with web development and system administration stuff, a LAMP stack, it's an abbreviation for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So you have Linux, which is your operating system, Apache for the web stuff, MySQL is the database, and then PHP is your server-side language that makes all of this happen. That's